The Living Library, a program brought to you by Liven Books. Young refugee students, immigrants to Canada, face ever increasing pressure to pursue paths that will lead to their future success, be it at school, in their careers, or as members of society at large. But how and on whose terms is such success defined? In this Living Library program, leaders from a diverse cross-section of our community will share their stories, lived experiences, and career paths. Hear stories that will challenge your own definition of success and how these community leaders have carved out their own paths in life and in work, all in pursuit of their own passions. Yasin is the founder, executive and artistic director of African Descent Society British Columbia and the African Descent Festival. He is also the founder of Frontline Records, a record label that manages professionals and upcoming artists. He is responsible for guidance, management, and strategic leadership of the African Descent Society and African Descent Festival. Yasin is responsible for the overall design and planning of the festival. He works with the volunteer coordinator and festival administrator to plan volunteer management, logistics, and execution of work. He graduated from the University of British Columbia with a Bachelor of Arts in Political Science and International Relations.
Welcome again to another edition of the LIVEN Show. Today, our guest is a very special person. He's been my former teacher, class teacher in primary school. We are talking about 15 years back in Malawi. Yasin was an inspiration to the many of us who made it through the Student Refugee Sponsorship Program. And he continues to be so. He continues to be an inspiration to those of us who have settled in Canada. We really look up to him for inspiration, but also for, so many things that are happening. We look up to him, for life is inspiration because he's been through these kinds of experiences. He's lived here before we arrived here. And so it's really a pleasure to get to have you on our program today. Yasin, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. How are you, Gabriel? Thank you so much for hosting me here at the interview. Yeah, thanks again.
Mm-hmm. How is BC? How is British Columbia?
Yeah, British Columbia is really very good. It's sunny right now, regardless that we're going in the falls, but we're still enjoying the sun. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. So you and I go back, 15 years ago. That was in 2017 when you were our teacher.
Yeah. 2017 when we were teacher at Zaleka refugee camp.
Yeah. I remember you were our science teacher, and then, you introduced yourself in your first introduction. You introduced yourself as a disc adjudicator.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, we're having a cool teacher, and it doesn't surprise me that is what you've gone on to do.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to the many roles you're playing in society. How many people were you in your program when you were selected to come to Canada?
Those who were selected, I think we were 10. But the people who participated in the program, World University Service of Canada application, were many, almost 150 to 200 students. But they only wanted 10 people, 10 students. Yeah. So we were 10 from Zaleka.
Yeah, it's a very competitive program.
Yeah, I think I always tell people it's the most competitive examination that I've seen. The exams we do here, they are not as much as competitive as the World University Service of Canada Selection Committee. It's a very competitive program. Definitely.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you still in touch with some of people in your cohort?
Oh yeah, there are some students have they are now. Vincent Yagayant is now studying law, completing a law degree very soon, and there are some students we connect online. My friend Rogi Bicolati was also a USCA student. Right now he's a professor. So some of the students we interact. Yeah.
What university is Logi teaching?
Logi is, I think now is a University of Ottawa as a supervisor there, but he did his examination, his PhD in Sweden, because he came to Canada and then after he went to study in Sweden.
Yeah, Logi was also our teacher.
Yeah. I was teaching here the Logi. Logi was also a teacher there.
Okay, so you attended at the University of British Columbia. Can you tell us of your student experience at the university?
Unlike many students who are coming to Canada through World University Service of Canada, from Malawi especially, I was the first student at the University of British Columbia from Zaleka refugee camp, Malawi. And I didn't find any challenges since the program which I took at the campus, it was already in the field of my personal interest. You know, some of the things that I could oversee in the future to do, politics and political science, international relations, international affairs. So it was very easy program for me to take at the University of British Columbia. But also I met maybe realized that there are none of the students from Malawi. And I had to create new friends by myself in the circle. You know, I had to dig down and start developing a new community at the campus. And at the time I entered my, I did not go to first years at the UBS. I started in the second year because I had already went to university in Rwanda before. So I had to transfer my credits to UBC. So it was a bit very different from students who just come as a fresh student. I had already experience of what the campus university life it is. I brought the experience of teaching and non-teaching stuff. I knew what the TA and the professors' expectation around the campus. Reading in social science is the difficult part, especially the political science literature. But I was already a fan of reading. You know, so I did not find a week I can read 45 books, and I didn't find any issue at all when I was at the campus. And I think I was one of the UBC students when it comes to reading and interpretation, analyze written documents. History was a very, very, very easy. Social science courses were very easy for me to take when I was at the campus. But many students, when they come overseas and they come to the new campus, especially large university like the University of British Columbia, they find it much harder to adjust. So for me, I knew what I wanted to do, and I've never asked any professor which degree I can take, which courses I selected. All my courses, and I was very exceptional that sometimes I can combine two courses in a very single paper, which is very hard for a student to master. But it was a skill where I can write one paper for history, and that paper it could also cross over in political science, and they are completely different topics, different answers. But I wrote the same paper, and then my paper when I go to library, I can definitely brainstorm which paper I want to write in the history of global politics or the history of international affairs, conflict in Africa. But that course also will translate it into the history about the conflict, global conflict. So I had to write a single paper similar but in different courses, something which helped me to even complete my credits at a very early time. less than 4 years, 3 years, I think, I'd already graduated at UBC. But I was also very good in extracurricular activities because I won so many. Awards. And I won the two-time. I'm a two-time University of British Columbia president scholarship UBC. I won the international scholarship UBC. I won the most likely leaders of tomorrow, University of British Columbia. And that award, I think I remain the only African student from the continent who got that, because the whole campus had to vote. And I came second with a student from Israel out of the entire population of British Columbia. Students and the staff, they had to vote for that. So I got extra different support from awards, bursaries from the campus, because academically, I could really try my best to perform at the top of the best UBC students, regardless of where I come from refugee camp. I had to keep my past aside, and actually I used my historic past, my challenges, as an opportunity, as a brand. You know, I was unique because I had knowledge from the refugee camp. I had knowledge about Africa. I have knowledge about the great opportunities in the continent, very fresh at the campus, the new ideas. So I had a lot of things, research topics to research about. Every research topic I bring was quite very new. And then when it comes to the extra other curricular activities out of the campus, very few students, when they come to, many students, when they come to the diaspora here, they find it very hard to connect with the local community. So for me, it was the easiest thing which I did, because as a historian, as a student of social science, I also always wanted to know what is happening in the community, because in political science, that's where we study the formation of society. So I wanted to be in the society. I don't want it to be that student who's studying about the society, who's studying about the community, the individual's human mind, and they don't live in those communities. I wanted it to go. I left the campus very early, so I had to go to live with the people in the community to have these experiences, you know. And it was a very great opportunity for me, because I started to understand the human interaction. You know, I also interested into the history of the African immigrants, especially the refugees who came here before us, and that all was it was part of my campus life. You know, I could leave the university and then come to the city. I was a very good research student, extremely very good in research. And when it comes to that, I realized that the University of British Columbia, there were students from Africa. There are students from different countries in Africa. But one of the things that often being absent at the campus was the question about people of African descent. And I just wanted to use that concept because, I mean, whether they are Jamaican, Caribbean, Africans, we were often very rare being mentioned in the books in classrooms. So what I did to bring Africa into classroom, when the professor assigns us history research-based questions, I always present my idea to the professor that, you know what, I don't see the African Canadian history, African immigrants being taught at the campus. Then I need to use this opportunity to research more about the history of African migrants in Canada. And I can tell you that that research has made me one of the best Canadian African historians, because I've made a lot of discoveries, part of related to the African immigrants. I've traveled Canada, almost every part of Canadian provinces. I've been there in presentations, in doing seminars, and that's when I came to discover the historic African descent communities in Vancouver, in Victoria, in Edmonton, Africaville, Nova Scotia, and other area, Toronto. So, and then we went up to Nunavut, helping. So I've made a lot of, awakened a lot of African, thousands of African descent Canadians understanding about the history of African migration in Canada for the last 500 years. During that time, we formed the project. I went back to UBC, and then later on, I started developing new thoughts of how I can bring the African people together, communities together. Not only Africans, but how I can bring the all communities together to understand and learn more about the African descent people in this country. So that was way back while I was going to school. At the same time, I come to UBC, to Vancouver. We organize hip hop, storytelling, poetry, slam. People come and tell the stories. Then I decided to start the walking tour, the African or Black Canadian History Walking Tour, and I think I became one of the best top Canadian history tour guide or heritage tour guide around the city, because I've taken people in almost every corner of this country, learning about the history. I've worked with the developers, with the history consulting firms, with the municipalities, cities, city councils, city councillors, city planners, to help them to understand the history, heritage sites for the African Canadian, the earliest settlers from 1800 until 1970, when the cities demolished mostly part of the African Canadian in different parts of the country. But those are all part of inspirations that was my life around the campus. It was not after the campus, but it was all started when I was still at the campus. And we used to do lectures. Professor invited me to give presentation about very intellectual presentations, lectures about the African history. So something which I was very eloquent about. And I think it helped me too to grow much, developing a lot of historic research skills and historic inquiries, developing hypotheses related to many historical phenomena many people are asking about. So, and then I came to conclude with several answers. So recently, we developed, I and my friend, Professor Larry Davis, I started the plan to write the African Descent Canadian History Curriculum. And that curriculum now is called African Descent History Curriculum in BC. So it is on online by Vancouver School Board and the Minister of Provincial Government in BC. They are using it.
I'll take you back a little bit. When did you graduate your university? And
I graduated in 2013 in May.
Right. And what was your first job upon completion of your university?
Yeah, I've been working as a human rights professional, as a human rights consultant with the United for Human Rights International, Youth for Human Rights International. Those are headquarters that are based in Los Angeles and in New York. But we also have offices here in Vancouver, offices in Toronto and other parts of Canada. So been working as a human rights consultant with the United for Human Rights International Group and Youth for Human Rights International. And but also I opened up my other businesses. On top of that, I opened up a Frontline public relations firm here in Vancouver downtown. It's a public relations, communication, events, production, marketing, and the public affairs strategist firm. So this is online. So many people see it most of the time. I used most of my former students, campus friends, those in communication and public relations, and I created that farm, and it's been always creating jobs for younger people and those in the field of public relations or event production. So, yeah, that was my first work when I graduated.
Yeah. I would say you have given so much back to the community, and you've been a founder of so many community initiatives.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was wondering really how you got to do that. What were the challenges, especially your early challenges in building your, your two high-profile organizations, the African Descent Festival and the African Descent.
Yeah. Yeah. The two organizations, as I told you, that so many people looking at when we study, education is not about getting a degree,
right?
And unfortunately, that's where many people, I think, they misinterpret that.
Mm-hmm.
Education is not about the degree you have, and teachers, they are not teaching students to get a degree to graduate. Those are some of the things which we don't see when we are in a classroom. You only realize them when you graduated. And the education does not prepare you to get a job. The education is actually meant for us to create jobs, right, or to solve problems. So, but sometimes, for me, I look at a student who say, I graduated, I didn't get a job. They say, which type of a job are you looking? You study psychology. There are thousands of jobs within the field of psychology, but I was focusing on mental health. What about if the job for mental health in this competitive world, it does not exist? What are you going to do? What are you prepared for? So the education, you've been prepared to face all life challenges in this global village. Mm-hmm. You've been prepared for that. You've been prepared diplomatically. You've been prepared to be a negotiator. You've been prepared to be a counselor. You've been prepared to be an innovator.
Mm-hmm.
The skills instructors and teachers giving us in the classroom could prepare us to be innovators, to innovate things, But that's not what normally happens in a classroom. And also, there are two types of graduation. There is a graduation at the university with your campus fellow students, where the president of the university invite your name, and then you walk over to receive your degree. That is a graduation. However, there is another graduation in which you are going to practice what you have learned from. The world is waiting for you to look at you, whether you are really a graduate. What forms of impact are you prepared to create in the community using the skills you acquired at the campus? So for me, things which I've done, they are even beyond a PhD student. They are even beyond that. They are even beyond a professor, an academician, because I knew that when I was studying political science, social science, I knew it was all nothing, but it was about the community, the society, the formation of society, the formation of human interactions, the invention, the community development. Then I decided that with the skills I've acquired to the community, I also needed to pay back to the community where I came from.
Right.
So I had to engage to test my ability to challenge some of the phenomenal issues going on in the community. One of the things which I was looking up, I had to narrow my thinking, critical thinking, to bring it down to the local community, and then I come down, which local community am I addressing my problems? Was it the Chinese community? Is it Chinese? They are really good, doing well. The Caucasian doing well. The Indian doing well. But I see my community where I come from, the African descent community, the Black Canadian community. I didn't see any, there's no entertainment club where African could go. There's no schools where they can go. There's no community centers. There's no social determinant of health. In other words, and things which creates the social determinant of health, nothing I could definitely see, Then that was really a big problem. So there was also in terms of taking community mapping, the theory of community mapping, looking at what assets that our community really have, which can use us or can employ us as academicians, and we help to uplift this community. Because if you're a Black person and you're an African person, and then you go to request a job in the Chinese community or in a Caucasian community, you still have a big challenge. Because many of our graduates, upon graduation, they go to look for jobs there. That's a good idea, okay? But that idea is still knowledge expatriates. The community left or is empty. When those people retire, they completely come back to this community and they don't have anywhere to start from.
Right.
So I see younger people. I could see younger people by that time who are going through on the streets. Some they have graduated. I remember one day I met a friend of mine. He studied electrical engineering, but he was on the Sky Train from painting. Said that you are working for someone for painting company, but you can start a painting company yourself. Very easy.
Yeah.
And then I found my friend also was doing in a cleaning company while I was studying at the campus. So you can start a cleaning company. But my friend whom we are studying, he was in a political science class. His name is Justice Osei, born in Toronto, grown up in British Columbia. We went to UBC together. He was doing security at the campus as a surviving job, but he turned that into a company, and he registered a private investment company called Cornerstone Security Services and Logistics. It is online. It's one of the biggest Canadian security firm, private bodyguard security, And then we became partner, whereby he's now my client. Every time I need those security guards, private logistics, transportation, guest tourists coming to Canada for hotel and hospitality, we always employ his what? We always contract his company to provide those services. Now he has add-on cars, automobile cars like a SAV for the VIP, tourists. So that's the type of knowledge we want. And we also see a person like you when you're at the campus, when you're at the campus where you can invent, you look at the community and you write about that community. At least we get more writers, critical analysts in the community, people who can change the public policy. So those are things that we could see. The angles of we didn't see racism in terms of protest, in terms of how our friends have been portraying it, fighting the system on the streets. But we wanted to fight. I wanted to fight the government by creating things which can attract the government to come and do something to my community. That's my battle I'm fighting. So, and I want to recruit more people that could definitely see that you can do something more than what I have done. You can do more than what I've done here by turning your skills into something more valuable. And then you will attract more people to come and admire and get more attraction to your community, and they get engaged. That's the best way of enemies fighting your enemy, is by showing example how hard you can work and demonstrate by examples what you can do without him.
Right.
So we knew those problems exist in the community by research, by community mapping, and then we wanted to do a difference. So returning you back to UBC where I went, I received an award known as Change the World change the world. I didn't know that I have the potential to make something about the world, but the university crowned me with the likely leader to change the world award, and definitely that award is still haunting me. I have a lot of motivation is to make sure that by the end of this world, we needed to see that every human is happy. We cannot make every person happy, but if a person have $1 in his house and has some food and have at least food in the fridge, and he has water for drinking, and has that person maybe has a space where he can go and enjoy, that is the beginning of wealth. That is the most happiest person we want to see, not the billionaires, because the billionaire, they are very few, but people who can be millionaires with all things in necessity available at home.
Right.
We wanted to see that, and my involvement in the community, it was definitely to make sure that there is a change in the Black community or in the African descent community. And definitely, if you ask me, have you attained those changes? I can say for sure that the African Descent Festival, when I started it, it was a street poetry storytelling, and now became one of the biggest brand in the Canadian entertainment industry. It has brought several celebrities around the globe who have made Vancouver and Canada a beautiful country and beautiful province and beautiful city. Okay?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
So that was how far these two organizations, the African Descent Society and the African Descent Festival, both of them came about with that. It was for community to create change, the change that you and me we want to see, the change our politicians would love to see, but they cannot do it. So I decided to be a Black African clansman, a brother for my people as Moses, and helping them to bring my skills to pull and bring all communities together. And now our organization, ever since then, we didn't found any studio, Black or African only recording studio, and now we have I have the biggest African recording studio, Frontline Records in Vancouver, becoming the largest studio for the Black community here, possibly all over. That studio is now operating here in Vancouver, okay, in one of my facilities somewhere on Main Street. And then the studio sits on the capacity of 250,000 Canadian dollars. We are still equipping it with the new, with the other modern equipment, but that is the best production studio today.
Right.
And then we created the festival. Was not there. We set up that festival. The organization, our organization. So my organization, it has the biggest and the largest history research and archive all over here, with lots of thousands of history documentary videos online. In fact, we call it the digital mobile history walk, history tour, history guide or history tour, history exhibition, digital mobile history online history exhibition. You can find it. It's a self-guided tour. You learn a lot of history with the pictures that many Canadians have never seen for us. But that's all which we needed. And then the major project we've been involved in so much was to advocating to have the African Descent Culture Center. I know the city of Vancouver approved that project with the collaboration of other partners. They are going to reconstruct historically African descent community known as Hoganizali in Strathcona area. Yes, those who know Vancouver is on Main Street. So that the city plan is to have a culture center right there for the people of African descent. you know, and then there's so many other events, innovations that we have made here. Live music, we have automobile history exhibition. It used in schools, community centers, and so many other areas. You know? Yeah. So that was the bottom line of why this organization created. There is also a program. It's a school. It's called the Africana School of Performing Art. Now we recruited younger students. They are coming to the facility, the learning, performing, music, you know, entertainment, and other skills in production.
Right.
Yeah.
You've touched on several points that I really wanted to talk to you about. I mean, the definition of education itself, that question you have articulated. You've articulated the definition of what it means to be a leader. You know, I would also wanted to ask you a question about, you know, because I see you as an intellectual, right? I view you as an intellectual, and I wanted you to explain to me, what does it mean to be an intellectual, like a public intellectual, not in academia field, but publicly, because you've done so many things to the society. What does it mean in your case to be an intellectual?
Yeah, thank you so much, brother. So intellectual, when some people may really look at intellectual in different ways. Many of us are a person who, some people they can look at a person of high intellect, expressed or processed, possessed high degree of intellect and analytical ability in understanding on many areas of either academic or social issues. That can be an intellectual. The person is really reliable, to be with a high degree of intellect or knowledge about can be on political, on social, on geographical issues in the society, and his intellect is reliable. Has a degree of reliability of his knowledge to the public. You know, that can be an intellectual person. Some of them can definitely he can be academically educated, but I don't think at some point an intellectual can be someone always trained. But we consider that an intellectual should be someone with a high degree of an reliable intellect knowledge, someone that publicly they can be his thoughts, ideas, knowledge be really transferable into something more useful to the public. Can be either advice, can be prominent political analysts, can be social scientists, can be doctors. We consider, but also they are now things have changed, that we have people creatively. Knowledge, we always say knowledge is power. That people, we have the world changed, that we now have people who have not gone to schools, but they have great ideas that normally people now depend on. You know, right. I think we can also define intellectual in that what the readiness of being more intelligent, or high degree of intellect, but people with the knowledge that people can be, or thinkers. No, thinkers. A thinker can be an intellectual. But now there are people that we know that they may not have already gone into school or to universities, but they are actually they are intellectual, they are thinkers in their own capacity, and their idea, their knowledge can be definitely used and reliable. You know, or they possess high degree of intelligence,
Right.
and the thinking, or mental power and the mental capacity of thinking, and high degree of thinking, and mental power of interpretation of many issues that we hardly be able not be understandable by a common person. Can be definitely an intellectual person.
So in my view, I see you as one of the successful former SRP students. How would you define success? Like, what does success mean to you?
Success, I think success to me, it may be defined as the ability to achieve some of the goals. Success depends on the way you can approach it, but you can define success as the ability, the either mental and physical ability of achieving your goals or individual goals. I think I can put it in a short, simple definition of that ability, both mental and physical ability of attainment or achieving the targeted goals. That can be success, and success can be all around. One of the example I can tell you that for example, you see leaders. Leaders, the word, that phrase leadership, leader, it also being always in misinterpretation, as I mentioned about education.
Right.
So when it comes to leadership, people think that I lead people. No. My goal is to lead. I want to get power to lead. But power is not above. Power is below. When person, for example, back home, our leaders, they say, I want to get into power. And the person will do what he wants, his main goal, to get into power. Even if it requires the person to set up a war, a conflict, a genocide, that individual is technically targeting to get into what? Into power. To do what? To lead, to direct. But that's not, if we are to lead people, then we should not create war and conflict. If our intention is to lead, to become leaders, a good leader should not believe in the war, conflict. That's not a leader. You should not wage a conflict, war, killing, arresting people, and then you say that's the meaning of leadership. Leadership is about leading problems. But how are you leading a problem when you are creating another problem? A leader is a person who lead the way, lead the problems. And we always lead where problems exist. And that's what we say. The best leaders are always not be judged by what they do, but they are judged at the time how successful they are in terms of taking their people out of the crisis. That is where you can understand who is a leader. Where there is a crisis, where there is a crisis, a challenge, that's where you can take a leader. A leader is an innovator. You innovate ideas, you innovate things that can take out of people. But if that your goal is to lead people, leadership, and then you murder, for example, your intention was to lead the country A, and you are from Bush A, you want to lead the country B, and then leading those people out of 10 million population, at the end of the day, you have lost 1 million people in terms of, because of murder and anger and everything. Then how can you justify your leadership? After all that, you've lost all of that. The main objective is definitely, there is a leader who said, I want to capture that country, but I don't want to lose any person. We only wanted it to change the system of government, but not killing what? He was running after the problem, not the individuals.
Right.
But another leader could come and say, I want to murder everyone because they are all suspected to be supporters of the government. And then we come to government. Then you're going to lead nothing. So the goal of person A, he was to lead the country successfully without killing, without imprisoning, without doing any. So at the end of the day, if that person achieved that idea, he will stand and say, we have done this smart and successful. Success is the attainment of one's targeted objective. If you attain them, you achieve them, definitely you are a successful person. But you may not have achieved everything, but at least there is a symbol that according to what we see from this individual, really he has made a lot of changes in people's lives. If you find people, they don't have any gathering space, and your intention was to create that gathering space, then you become successful.
Right.
Succeeded in that area, in that capacity. So we can succeed in different multiple angles.
Right.
Like now, the inventor of Tesla, he's a successful person. But at some areas, they are where you see that being criticized so many times for failure of fulfilling what he promises or what he set up. Sometimes goals becomes unattainable, especially when he overlapping with other things, or for some circumstances or life changes things, and then they make success hard to interpret. But clearly, short and precise is the attainment of the targeted or the planned activities or goals.
Right.
Yeah.
So you and I are, we could consider ourselves graduates of the student refugee program.
Yeah.
But even right now, there are other students back in refugee camps or elsewhere, or young people in general who will be viewing this video later on. They want to get inspiration, basically, to keep up with their schools so that they can at least, achieve moderately whatever goals they want to achieve in terms of their academic performances, but also in terms of where they want to end up in life. What advice would you give to these young people right now who are watching us, but also those who are working their best to get into the WUSC's SRP program?
Thank you so much, Gabriel, again for this question. I think there is a professor known as Abraham Maslow. Professor Abraham Maslow, when he was talking about success and management, success in life, he drew us what we call the hierarchy of needs. The human development, the hierarchy of human development and the hierarchy of needs. When you look at our needs are unlimited and our goals are objective, our desires, human desires are unlimited. But definitely, if we set up a smart example, something very specific, and concretely to the point that is something that you are going to do yourself and you achieve it according to your potential, I think you can succeed. Because this question is much more to WUSC students. When we are in this program of WUSC World University Service of Canada, so many students are extremely excited to be in this program. But you and me also agree that not all students who came through WUSC have managed to succeed. Their goal was to get a degree. That was the goal. And that was the goal for WUSC, to help these students to come to Canada, get a degree, graduate in Canada, and then have other things to do in life. Sometimes that one can be achieved at some point for some reason is we fail to achieve that goal. Why? Because we engage in so many things that we may not be able to handle at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember someone told me that there's a story where you get a piece of meat and you give it to the dog. But when the dog crosses the bridge and he sees itself inside with another piece of meat, he feels want to drop this one or to get the other one. At the end of the day, he loses both.
Right.
So life is like that, that if you handle this and you handle the other one, and both of them, there is no capacity to run them at the same time, you may not be able to reach where I do it.
Mm-hmm.
But also life is part of specialization. Which area can I handle first that can lead me to the next step?
Right.
For example, students, when they arrived here in Canada, definitely, the main objective was to study hard, to get better grades. Some of them they do, others they fail. But also they encountered with the financial challenges that after 1 or 2 years, the partner will back off, and then you remain one.
Mm-hmm.
Then you are going to face with some kind of disappointment, and you have left alone around, and then you have you start feeling culture shock back home, the pressure from home, your families, your friends. You know, the system of education being used here, technology and other things, all when you combine them onto just within on a single head, you feel almost overwhelmingly to get things away, to live. But persistence, when we apply the power of persistence, it can also help us to remind that success does not come to those who just wait things on the silver plate. Success comes to those who ready for it, work and stand and ready to stand every form of challenges, to withstand it, to stand the storms, to stand any kind of heavy winds.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, to stand for the snow, to stand for the winter, to stand for the summertime. Success comes within that kind of spiritual control, mental power, and the readiness to attain your goals. So through chasing your goals, they are what we call in political science, we call them embankments. Embankments is like when you are farming, you have a garden.
Mm-hmm.
The garden you got, if it does not have embankments, every crop you've already planted, if the rain comes, it's going to take everything. But
Right.
if you set up those embankments, they can prevent heavy winds and water not to take away your cultivated garden.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we must create those embankments in our lives, and by thinking of tomorrow. What if something happened to me today or tomorrow? How ready I am?
Mm-hmm.
I need to get a degree, and after my degree, I need to go to find a job. But how ready I am to do that? We must also apply the logic thinking of personal creativity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I encourage students, it's not about nursing degree you are going to take. It's not about the mechanical engineering. It's not about the law degree. It's about all how creative you are. Are you ready to start your own law firm? Are you ready to start the law firm from scratch? So if you are ready for that, then I can definitely count you on successful individuals. But I'm not going to say to look at your success through being employed by another person until no. What has been your goals, your plan when you are coming to Canada? Are you able to stick, or have you stick on those programs, objectives that you really intended to accomplish. Whatever accomplishment you reach, you attain, definitely you are counted into the successful individuals.
Right.
Because and this is what we need our students, brothers and sisters who are coming to Canada, is to cut down the over expectation. Is actually to lower the expectation beyond where you go, and think about being good. Do not think about the heaven, great things in heaven. We only do good deeds, which will be able to take us in heaven.
Right. Right.
So those who wanted to come to Canada as the American dream, to chase the Canadian dream, they must prepare that dream already back home. What is my dream? What are my plans? What do I need to accomplish? And over planning too much also. Say a plan without action is a wastage of time. Goals without action is, attainability, a wastage of time. So so by narrowing the goals you have, and by setting up attainable plans, smart ideas, I think they are easily to find the resources and get those goals more easily, more achievable than creating on too broad ideas which have no ending.
Right.
So even success comes step by step. There are things that we need to accomplish. For example, you cannot get better grades, better education without a house, without a place where you stay, without food, without money. You all need all of these resources. You need individuals around you, people around you.
Right.
So my fellow students, I would advise them definitely to be more strategic in terms of planning, preparation, and thinking about Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal is to set up attainable goals, simple and clean. And then assemble with a high degree of networks, individual people and the resources which are going to help you to get those resources. By being focused, create goals which can help them to focus and attain those goals, rather than being everywhere. That system has left every student disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
Some drop out of school. If the goal is about marriage, work for it. It's about education, focus on education. It's about creating more and use more engage in more extracurricular activities. God said He created every human head. There is a wire for success, but it is our role to find that wire where it exists.
Right.
Every person born to succeed.
Okay.
There is no any person that God has designed that you are going to be a successful person.
Mm-hmm.
You can look at Jesus as an example. Can you tell me that Jesus, from the beginning of the day, he was seen as a successful individual, right from the day one? It was hardly to believe that Jesus can be a Jesus in life, where Christianity now is billions of people, the largest religion globally. It was very hard. Number one, the way he was tortured, the way he was born, the Judas Iscariot, people who almost took his life, sacrificed on the cross. But all of those, for those who understand the success, they can tell you, yes, they were all signs of what? Success, that he was determined to die.
That's a very philosophical.
Yeah, he was determined to do what? To die for what was his mission.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a mission. He was always telling people, my mission have been sent by my Father to inform you about Christianity. Whether you kill me, whether you do what, me, I'm ready to die for. When you look at Prophet Muhammad, and the successful people always start with a small idea. Only small. Christianity was a very simple idea that Jesus only had 9 followers. No, 9 followers. Today you have people following you, Gabriel, more than the number Jesus owned. It was very hard for Jesus to have people to believe in him, tormented everywhere. Then how can you tell me today that you cannot succeed when Jesus is a Messiah? Throughout of all of that, the world following him and is already gone.
He started with 9.
Leaders comes and go. After creating the impact they wanted, they need to come and they leave.
Right.
And I told you that successful leaders, they will lead and they leave inspiration and other people take over. Looking at our friend is from Moscow about success, and he said, we should all have potential to succeed in life. And no person can say, I can't succeed. Racism preventing me to succeed. No, there is always one thing I remind my fellow Black Canadians or African Canadians. We should not look at racism as an obstacle. Right. Because when we look into history, there are so many Canadian celebrities who were slaves, former slaves. Like, for example, John Peter, Thomas Peters from Nova Scotia. In 1782, Thomas Peters knew the suffering of African people in Canada and organized Back to Africa trip, in which he returned all African Americans in Canada, returning them where? Back to Africa. He said, if Canada is too cold, we have a plan, we can create a new country back home. And that's why Sierra Leone was created with a capital city known as Freetown. So Freetown is the capital city of Sierra Leone. And it is just because the African Americans, they had to find the way to overcome racism. They had to find a new country with a city, Freetown. That's one example. We can look at that. Challenges, they persisted. I mentioned that Prophet Muhammad, he found it very hard to convince people to believe in one Allah, God, in Islam, and that Islam is a religion. But eventually, he was chased out of Mecca. So many people think that Mecca has the largest number of Muslims. No, it is Indonesia. Prophet Muhammad did not live in Indonesia. But he was chased from his home country, Mecca, and then he went to Medina. He was chased from there. Many of his followers were killed. Several gifts were set up by the Meccan people to kill Muhammad. But he said, I will not abandon my goal. I will not abandon my goal to preach Islam. Now there is 1 billion followers in Islam, but the Prophet is no more. But he started with the 4 people, his wife and the 3 friends. Now, look at that idea. But they went into several challenges to get where things are. Father Francis, the founder of the Jesuit refugee services, he had to walk miles and miles when he was hungry, no food. And he suffered. So great successful people, they always go through a lot of challenges. In fact, a successful person is that individual who has sacrificed himself or herself for the sake of the rest of other people. But a person who is not if you are not persistent, there's a group of people who are mining gold, and they were mining gold for several times. But time came, and one of their friend, Al-Qadi, told the rest of others that there is no gold here. All the time, the years we've been mining this place, we have turned our heads into gray hair, mining the area, no hair, no gold at all. Let's leave. There was an old man who was passing over, and he hear them talking and say, hey, you wanted to leave? You want to quit? That yes, we are quitting. All the time you have passed here, seeing us mining, nothing you have managed to get. He told them, if you are quitting, I have small coins of money, dinari. Can I pay you? And myself, I take over this beautiful garden. They said, yes, you can give us money. For little money they asked him, he gave them, and he started digging. In a few minutes, he got the gold, which they spent years and years digging.
Yeah.
So we say the lesson from that success comes at the last point where you actually feel you are tired, you are quitting. That is where the point of success starts from.
Mm-hmm.
And that message should clearly go to every student, that success they want will always come to those who feel that they are actually overwhelmed, tired, they can't do more, but at that point where they say, it's enough, I can't do more, that is where success do that. One of my friends was in Izaleka refugee camp, 2008. And he had lived in the camp for 7 years. And his goal was to pass exam for WUSC to go to Canada. After waiting several times, he said, no, Yasin, there's no life here anymore. Let me go to South Africa. The day he left, tomorrow, the following day, WUSC made the announcement that the following students should register for competition for WUSC. And he had already reached South Africa. And he had no money to return what? To return back home. He cried, but the door had been closed. So patience, perseverance are traits and the characteristics of a successful person, and ready to fight for what is good for that person.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Yasin. I mean, this was a student-teacher conversation. I'm glad we really got to do this. In fact, thank you for extending our time, because initially we had planned for a short time, but I'm glad this conversation got this far. Now, dear friends, stay in touch with LIVEN Books, but also stay in touch with the LIVEN Show, and keep on watch for our next guest. And thank you for being with us also.